Make yourself do what you're avoiding. Hill philosophy. If you've ever found yourself staring at your to-do list, feeling paralyzed by the sheer weight of everything you need to accomplish, you are not alone. There's something almost cruel about how our minds work against us, turning simple tasks into mountains of anxiety and transforming productive intentions into endless cycles of procrastination. But here's what most people don't realize. The very thing you're avoiding might be the key to unlocking a level of productivity and fulfillment you never thought possible. What if I told you that the strategies used by the most successful people throughout history aren't complex systems or expensive tools, but rather simple psychological principles that anyone can master? These aren't feel-good theories or motivational fluff. These are battle-tested techniques, have helped ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. The difference between those who consistently follow through and those who constantly struggle isn't talent, luck, or willpower. It's understanding how to work with your brain instead of against it. Throughout this video, we're going to uncover 8 powerful strategies that will completely transform your relationship with the tasks you've been avoiding. But here's the thing, the real breakthrough isn't just in learning these techniques. It's in understanding the deeper psychological principles that make them work. By the end, you'll have discovered something that could change everything about how you approach challenges. And I guarantee the final insight will shift your entire perspective on what's actually possible. When you stop fighting yourself and start working with your natural psychology, drop a comment below and tell me, what's the one task you've been avoiding that, if completed, would make the biggest difference in your life right now? You know that feeling when you're staring at a massive project and it feels like trying to eat an elephant? Well, here's the thing. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. That's exactly what breaking down large tasks is all about. When we are faced with something overwhelming, our brain literally goes into freeze mode, triggering what psychologists call analysis paralysis. It's like standing at the bottom of Mount Everest with flip-flops on. You know you can't make it, so why even try? But here's where the magic happens. When you slice that mountain into manageable hills, suddenly the impossible becomes inevitable. Think about how a master chef approaches a complex. They don't just throw everything together and hope for the best. They break it down into prep work, cooking stages, and final presentation. Take Sarah, a marketing manager who was tasked with launching a complete rebrand for her company. Instead of panicking about the enormity of it all, she broke it down, research competitor, define brand voice, create visual identity, develop marketing material, and plan the launch strategy. Each piece became a mini project she could actually wrap her head around. The result? What seemed like a 6-month nightmare became a series of achievable 2-week sprints. The beauty of task breakdown lies in how it tricks your brain into cooperation. When you see write 50-page business plan, your mind rebels. But when you see draft executive summary minus 2 pages, suddenly it doesn't seem so scary. It's like the difference between being asked to run a marathon versus being asked to jog to the corner store. Your brain says, hey, I can handle. This psychological shift is crucial because it moves you from a state of overwhelm into a state of action. And here's the kicker. Once you start moving, momentum builds naturally. Let's get practical for a moment. Grab a piece of paper right now and write down that big, scary task that's been haunting you. Now, imagine you're explaining to a 10-year-old how to complete it. What would be the first step? Then the second. Keep going until you have a list of actions that each take no more than an hour to complete. This isn't just busy work. It's rewiring your relationship with productivity. Companies like Google use this exact principle in their project management, breaking down massive initiatives into what they call bite-sized chunks. The ripple effect of proper task breakdown extends far beyond just getting things done. When you consistently break down large tasks, you're training your brain to see solutions instead of problems. You're developing what researchers call implementation intention, the ability to automatically think in terms of actionable steps. This skill becomes your secret weapon in every area of life, from planning a vacation to starting a business. It's like developing a superpower that makes you the person others turn to when they're stuck. Here's where most people mess up. They break tasks down, but then don't connect them to deadlines or priority. It's like having all the ingredients for a cake, but no recipe. Each broken down task needs a timeline and a clear understanding of how it fits into the bigger picture. Use tools like Trello or even a simple notebook to map out your mini tasks with specific deadlines. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. And progress, my friend, is addictive in the best possible. But here's what's really fascinating about this whole process. When you master the art of breaking down tasks, you start to see patterns in how you work best. Maybe you're a morning person who tackles creative tasks better before noon. Or perhaps you're someone who needs to knock out all the research before moving to execution. This self-awareness becomes invaluable as you design your own productivity system. And speaking of system, have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly tackle huge projects while others get stuck on the smallest detail? Now, let's talk about one of the most deceptively simple yet powerful tools in the productivity arsenal, the 5-minute technique. You might be thinking, 5 minutes? What can I possibly accomplish in 5 minutes? Well, buckle up, because this little time block is about to revolutionize how you approach the tasks you've been avoiding. The genius of this technique isn't in what you accomplish in those 5 minutes. It's in what happens after. It's like lighting a match in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see everything clearly, and the path forward becomes obvious. The science behind this is absolutely fascinating. When we commit to just 5 minutes, we're essentially hacking our brain's resistance system. You see, our minds are wired to protect us from perceived threat, and big, undefined tasks trigger our fight or flight response. But 5 minutes, that's nothing. That's less time than it takes to make a cup of coffee or scroll through social media. Your brain doesn't even register it as a threat. It's like telling a child they only have to eat one bite of vegetable. Suddenly, the resistance melts away because the commitment feels met. Let me share a story about Marcus, a writer who'd been avoiding starting his novel for 3 years. 3 whole years. Every time he thought about it, he'd picture months of writing, editing, and the overwhelming process of getting published. Then he discovered the 5-minute rule. Day 1. He set a timer and just wrote character names for 5 minutes. That's it. Day 2, 5 minutes of describing the setting. By day 7, something magical happened. He found himself writing for 20 minutes because he didn't want to stop when the timer went off. 6 months later, he had a completed first draft. The secret wasn't in the 5 minutes. It was in showing up consistent. Here's where it gets really interesting. The 5-minute technique works because it eliminates the decision fatigue that comes with big commitment. When you tell yourself you'll work on something for a while or until it's done, your brain has to constantly evaluate whether to continue or stop. But with 5 minutes, the decision is already made. You're not committing to finishing, you're just committing to starting. It's like the difference between promising to clean your entire house versus promising to wash just one dish. One feels overwhelming, the other feels doable. The applications for this technique are virtually endless. Stuck on that presentation? 5 minutes of brainstorming bullet point. Avoiding exercise? 5 minutes of stretching or walking. Procrastinating on that difficult conversation? 5 minutes of writing down what you want to say. The beauty is that 5 minutes is long enough to build momentum, but short enough that your resistance doesn't have time to kick in. It's like sneaking past the security guard of your own mind. By the time your brain realizes what's happening, you're already in motion. But here's the real kicker. Most of the time, you will naturally extend beyond the 5 minutes. Once you start, the hardest part is over. It's like pushing a boulder down a hill. The initial push requires the most effort, but once it's rolling, momentum takes over. Studies show that people who use the 5-minute technique end up working an average of 25 minutes on tasks they were previously avoiding. That's a 500% return on your time investment. Not bad for something that started as just showing up for 5 minutes. The key to making this work is being absolutely honest about the 5-minute commitment. Don't secretly plan to work longer. That defeats the purpose. Your brain needs to trust that when you say 5 minutes, you mean 5 minutes. Someday, you'll stop at exactly 5 minutes, and that's perfectly okay. You've still made progress, and more importantly, you've maintained the habit of showing up. It's like making a deposit in your productivity bank account. Even small deposits compound over time. But what happens when 5 minutes becomes as natural as breathing? Here's something that might surprise you. Your brain doesn't actually distinguish between big victories and small ones when it comes to releasing those feel-good chemicals. That rush you get from completing a major project. You can trigger the exact same neurochemical response by celebrating the completion of a single task on your to-do list. This isn't just feel-good psychology, it's hardcore neuroscience. When you acknowledge and reward small wins, you're literally rewiring your brain to crave productivity instead of avoiding it. It's like training a puppy. Except the puppy is your own motivation system. The problem most people have is they're waiting for the big celebration at the end of the marathon, completely ignoring all the mile markers along the way. But here's what marathon runners know that the rest of us often miss. It's the small celebrations that carry you through the tough middle. When Jennifer, a software developer, started celebrating every bug she fixed with a small treat or a 5-minute break to watch funny videos, her productivity skyrocketed. She wasn't just getting more done, she was actually enjoying the process. Her brain began associating problem solving with pleasure instead of stress. The magic happens in the dopamine release. Every time you complete a task and acknowledge it, even something as simple as checking it off a list, your brain gets a hit of dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in addiction. But instead of being addicted to something harmful, you're becoming addicted to accomplishment. It's like turning productivity into a video game, where every completed task earns you points. The more you play, the more you want to keep playing. This is why some people seem naturally motivated while others struggle. They've accidentally trained their brains to find satisfaction in progress. Now, let's get specific about what these rewards should look like. We're not talking about buying yourself a car every time you send an email. That's not sustainable or proportional. Think small, but meaningful. Maybe it's a special coffee after completing a difficult task, a 10-minute walk outside after finishing a report, or allowing yourself to watch one episode of your favorite show after tackling something you've been avoiding. The key is immediacy and consistency. The reward needs to come right after the accomplishment, and it needs to happen every time. Here's where most people go wrong. They either make the rewards too big, unsustainable, or too small, meaningless. The sweet spot is finding something that feels like a genuine treat, but doesn't derail your entire day. Think of it like training for a sport. You need enough positive reinforcement to keep going, but not so much that you lose focus on the bigger goal. Some people love physical rewards like a favorite snack. Others prefer experiential rewards like calling a friend, and some go for achievement-based rewards like adding a star to a progress chart. The compound effect of celebrating small wins is absolutely incredible. When you consistently reward progress, you start to build what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you can actually accomplish what you set out to do. This confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You expect to succeed, so you put in more effort, which leads to more success, which reinforces the belief. It's like a positive feedback loop that gets stronger with every iteration. People who master this principle often seem to have an almost magical ability to get things done. But here's the really cool part. This habit starts to spill over into other areas of your life. When you train your brain to recognize and celebrate progress in one area, it naturally starts looking for progress everywhere. You begin noticing improvements in your relationship, health, finances, and personal growth that you might have overlooked before. It's like putting on glasses for the first time and realizing how much you've been missing. The world doesn't change, but your ability to see the good in it dramatically improves. And once you start seeing progress everywhere, what do you think happens to your motivation to create even more? Let's be brutally honest for a moment. You've probably made promises to yourself that you've broken more times than you'd care to admit. We all have. But here's the fascinating thing about human psychology. We'll move mountains to avoid disappointing us, even when we're perfectly comfortable disappointing ourselves. This isn't a character flaw. It's actually a survival mechanism hardwired into our brains from thousands of years of living in tribes where social rejection could literally mean death. Today, we can harness this same mechanism to finally tackle those tasks we've been avoiding. An accountability partner isn't just someone who checks in on your progress. They're your productivity co-pilot, your personal board of directors, and sometimes your gentle but firm kick in the pants all rolled into one. Think about it. When you tell your friend Sarah that you will have that proposal finished by Friday, suddenly Friday actually means something. It's no longer just an arbitrary date you picked. It's a commitment to another human being. The magic happens because external accountability creates what psychologists call social pressure, which is often stronger than internal motivation. The key to making this work is choosing the right person and setting up the right system. Your accountability partner doesn't need to be an expert in your field. They just need to be someone who cares about your success and isn't afraid to ask the tough question. It could be a colleague, a friend, a family member, or even someone you meet in an online community. What matters is that they're reliable, supportive, and willing to hold you to your commitments without being judgmental. Think of them as your personal trainer for productivity. They're there to push you when you need pushing and celebrate with you when you succeed. Here's a real-world example that'll blow your mind. David, an entrepreneur, was struggling to finish his business plan for months. Every week, he'd tell himself this is the week, and every week, something else would take priority. Then he partnered with Maria, a fellow entrepreneur working on her own project. They agreed to check in every Tuesday and Friday via a quick phone call. Not only did David finish his business plan in 3 weeks, but Maria completed her marketing strategy in the same time frame. The secret wasn't that they suddenly became more disciplined. It was that they couldn't bear the thought of telling each other they'd failed to follow through. The beauty of accountability partnerships is that they work both ways. When you're helping someone else stay on track, you're reinforcing your own commitment to follow through. It's like having a workout buddy. You might skip the gym if it's just you, but you won't leave your friend hanging. This reciprocal relationship creates a powerful dynamic where both people become more productive. Plus, having someone to share the journey with makes the whole process more enjoyable and less isolating. But here's where most accountability partnerships fail. They're too vague or too infrequent. Saying let's check in sometime next week is a recipe for disappointment. Instead, get specific. I'll text you every Wednesday at 2 p.m. with my progress on the Johnson project, and you'll respond with your progress on your presentation. The more specific the commitment, the harder it is to wiggle out of it. Also, make sure you're tracking the right things, not just whether you worked on some, but what specific progress you made. The most successful accountability partnerships evolve into something deeper. They become mutual mentoring relationships where both people grew together. You start sharing strategy, celebrating each other's wins, and problem-solving challenges together. It's like having a personal success coach who's also working on their own goal. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you help others succeed, the more motivated you become to succeed yourself. But what happens when you've mastered the art of external accountability and want to take your productivity to the next level? Here's a counterintuitive truth that most people never realize. Deadlines aren't just dates on a calendar. They're psychological tools that can either paralyze you or propel you forward, depending on how you use them. The problem with most real deadlines is that they're either too far away to feel urgent or so close that they trigger panic mode. But artificial deadlines, these are your secret weapon for creating just the right amount of pressure to get moving without the crushing weight of external consequence. It's like having a personal trainer who pushes you hard but won't actually fire you if you miss a rep. The genius of artificial deadlines lies in something called Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Give yourself a month to write a report, and it'll take a month. Give yourself a week, and somehow you'll find a way to get it done in a week. By creating artificial deadlines that are shorter than what you think you need, you force your brain into efficiency mode. It's like putting yourself in a gentle time crunch that eliminates the luxury of perfectionism and procrastination. Let me tell you about Rachel, a graphic designer who was notorious for missing client deadlines. She'd always underestimate how long projects would take and then find herself pulling all-nighters at the last minute. Then she started setting artificial deadlines 48 hours before her real deadline. Suddenly, She was delivering work early, with time to spare for revisions and improvement. Her clients were thrilled. Her stress levels plummeted, and her reputation for reliability skyrocketed. The secret wasn't that she became faster. She just gave herself the gift of urgency without the penalty of failure. The key to making artificial deadlines work is treating them as if they're real. This means telling other people about them, putting them in your calendar, and creating consequences for missing them. Maybe you promise to donate $50 to a charity you hate if you miss your artificial deadline, or you commit to doing an extra household chore. The consequence doesn't have to be severe. It just has to be real enough to matter to you. It's like creating a game where the stakes are meaningful but not devastating. Here's where it gets really interesting. Artificial deadlines help you discover your true working pace. Most people have no idea how long tasks actually take them because they've never worked under consistent time pressure. When you start using artificial deadlines regularly, you develop what I call time intuition, the ability to accurately estimate how long something will take and plan accordingly. This skill alone is worth its weight in gold because it transforms you from someone who's always behind into someone who's always prepared. The compound effect of artificial deadlines is remarkable. When you consistently meet self-imposed deadlines, you build tremendous confidence in your ability to deliver. This confidence creates a positive cycle where you take on bigger challenges because you trust yourself to follow through. Plus, you develop a reputation for reliability that opens doors and creates opportunity. People start coming to you with important projects because they know you'll get them done on time. But here's the advanced technique that separates the pros from the amateurs: layered artificial deadline. Instead of just one fake deadline, create multiple checkpoints leading up to your real deadline. For a project due in 2 weeks, you might set artificial deadlines for research completion day 3, first draft day 7, revisions day 2, and final polish day 12. This creates a series of mini urgencies that keep you moving steadily forward instead of cramming everything into the final day. And when you master this level of time management, what other environmental factors might be holding you back from peak performance? Your environment is silently shaping your behavior every single moment, and most people are completely unaware of this invisible influence. That cluttered desk isn't just messy, it's actively sabotaging your ability to focus. That comfortable couch where you always plan to work, it's sending signals to your brain that it's time to relax, not produce. The truth is, your physical space is either working for you or against you, and there's no neutral ground. When you understand how to design your environment for success, you unlock a productivity superpower that works 24/7 without any additional effort from you. Think about how different you feel in different spaces. A library naturally makes you want to read and study. A gym makes you want to exercise. A coffee shop buzzes with creative energy. These aren't accidents. They're carefully designed environments that trigger specific behaviors and mindset. The same principle applies to your workspace. Whether it's a home office, the corner of your bedroom, or a spot at the kitchen table, every element in that space is either supporting your goals or undermining them. And the crazy part is, most of this happens below the level of conscious awareness. Let me share the story of Tom, a freelance writer who was struggling with productivity while working from home. He'd set up his office in his bedroom, thinking it would be convenient. But every time he sat down to write, his brain kept getting mixed signals. Was this a place for work or rest? His productivity was terrible until he made one simple change. He moved his desk to the living room and created a dedicated work corner with a specific chair, lighting, and even a particular playlist. Within a week, his output doubled. Same person, same task, completely different environment, dramatically different results. The science behind environmental influence is fascinating. Our brains are constantly scanning our surroundings for cues about how to behave. This is called environmental priming, and it's incredibly powerful. Studies show that people are more creative in messy environments and more focused in clean, organized spaces. They are more collaborative in open areas and more introspective in enclosed spaces. The key is matching your environment to the type of work you need to do. Need to brainstorm. Try a coffee shop or a park. Need to focus deeply. Find a quiet, Organized space with minimal distraction. Here's a practical exercise that'll change everything. Audit your current work environment like a detective. What's in your line of sight when you're trying to work? Are there distractions pulling your attention away? Is the lighting energizing or draining? Is the temperature comfortable? Are there sounds that help or hinder your concentration? Most people never consciously evaluate these factors, but they're all influencing your performance. Small changes can yield massive results. Something as simple as facing away from a busy hallway or adding a plant to your desk can significantly impact your productivity. The most successful people understand that they need different environments for different types of work. Steve Jobs was famous for taking walking meetings because he knew that movement sparked creative thinking. Maya Angelou rented a hotel room with nothing but a bed, a desk, and a Bible because she needed complete isolation to write. You don't need to be that extreme, but you can create different zones for different activity. Maybe your kitchen table is for brainstorming, your office is for focused work, and your favorite chair is for reading and research. But here's the advanced strategy that you can create portable environmental cues that trigger productivity wherever you go. This might be a specific playlist that you only listen to when working, a particular scent from a candle or essential, or even a special pen that you only use for important tasks. These become psychological anchors that tell your brain it's time to focus, regardless of where you are. When you master the art of environmental design, you realize that productivity isn't just about willpower. It's about creating conditions where success becomes inevitable. But even with the perfect environment, what happens when your own expectations become the biggest obstacle? Here's a hard truth that nobody wants to hear. Your perfectionist tendencies aren't making your work better. They're preventing your work from existing at all. The gap between what you think you should produce and what you're actually capable of producing right now is often the biggest barrier to getting started. When you set the bar impossibly high, you're not inspiring excellence. You're creating a psychological prison where nothing is ever good enough to begin. The most productive people in the world have learned a secret that perfectionists never discover. Done is better than perfect, and progress beats perfection every single time. The perfectionism trap is sneaky because it disguises itself as high standard. You tell yourself you're just being thorough, just wanting to do quality work, just making sure everything is right. But underneath all that noble language is often a deep fear of judgment, failure, or not being good enough. So instead of starting with a rough draft, you wait for inspiration. Instead of making a basic presentation, you research for weeks. Instead of having an imperfect conversation, you avoid it entirely. Meanwhile, people with lower standards are out there creating, shipping, improving through iteration. Let me tell you about Lisa, a marketing consultant who spent 3 months preparing to launch her newsletter. She researched the perfect platform, designed the ideal template, wrote and rewrote her welcome sequence dozens of times, and created a content calendar for 6 months in advance. Meanwhile, her competitor Jake sent out his first newsletter after 1 week of preparation. It was basic, had a few typos, and wasn't particularly polished. But here's the kicker. 6 months later, Jake had 2,000 subscribers and was booking clients through his newsletter, while Lisa was still perfecting her. Jake's willingness to start imperfectly gave him 6 months of real-world feedback and improvement that no amount of preparation could match. The key to adjusting expectations isn't lowering your standard. It's understanding the difference between standards for starting and standards for finishing. Your first draft doesn't need to be publication ready. Your initial presentation doesn't need to be TED Talk quality. Your first attempt at anything doesn't need to be your masterpiece. The goal is to get something, anything, out of your head and into the real world where you can see it, evaluate it, and improve it. It's like sculpting. You can't refine a block of marble until you start chipping away at it. This mindset shift requires what I call strategic mediocrity, the deliberate choice to produce something good enough to move forward rather than something perfect enough to never stop. This doesn't mean being sloppy or careless. It means being realistic about what's required at each stage of the process. Sometimes good enough really is good enough, especially when the alternative is nothing at all. And here's the beautiful irony. When you give yourself permission to be imperfect, you often end up producing better work because you're not paralyzed by the pressure to be flawless. The compound effect of adjusted expectations is life-changing. When you consistently choose progress over perfection, you develop what researchers call implementation momentum, the ability to move from idea to action quickly and efficiently. You become someone who shapes, who delivers, who gets things done. This reputation becomes incredibly valuable in both personal and professional context. People start coming to you with opportunities because they know you'll actually follow through. Not just talk about following through. But here's the most important part. Adjusting your expectations doesn't mean abandoning excellence. It means understanding that excellence is achieved through iteration, not through waiting for perfection. Every successful product, book, business, or creative work started as an imperfect version of what it eventually became. The iPhone wasn't perfect when it launched. It didn't even have copy and paste. But Apple shipped it, learned from user feedback, and improved it over time. Your work deserves the same opportunity to evolve and improve through real-world testing rather than theoretical perfection. And speaking of real-world testing, how do you know if all these strategies are actually working? Here's something that might shock you. Most people spend more time tracking their favorite sports team statistics than they do tracking their own productivity and progress. They can tell you their team's win-loss record, batting averages, and playoff chance, but they have no idea whether they're actually getting better at the things that matter most in their own life. This isn't just an oversight. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how improvement works. What gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets improved without tracking. You're essentially flying blind, hoping you're moving in the right direction, but having no real way to know the magic of progress. Monitoring lies in its ability to make the invisible visible. When you're in the middle of working on something big, it's easy to feel like you're not making progress, especially during those inevitable rough patches where everything feels difficult. But when you have concrete data showing that you've completed 12 tasks this week compared to 8 last week, or that you've been consistent with your new habit for 15 days, suddenly you can see the reality of your progress rather than just feeling the emotion of the moment. It's like having a GPS for your goal. You always know exactly where you are and how far you've come. Let me share the story of Carlo, a sales manager who was frustrated because he felt like he wasn't improving despite working hard every day. He decided to start tracking 3 simple metrics: number of calls made, number of follow-ups sent, and number of meetings scheduled. Within a month, he discovered something surprising. His activity levels were actually decreasing over time, even though he felt busier than ever. The data revealed that he was spending more time on administrative tasks and less time on revenue-generating activity. Armed with this insight, he restructured his day and saw a 40% increase in sales within 2 months. The tracking didn't just show him the problem, it gave him the roadmap to the solution. The key to effective progress monitoring is choosing the right metric, what I call leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. Lagging indicators tell you what already happened, like your final grade or your monthly sale, while leading indicators predict what's going to happen, like hours studied or calls. If your goal is to write a book, don't just track whether you finished it. Track daily word count, writing sessions completed, and chapters. If you want to get in shape, don't just track your final weight. Track workouts completed, healthy meals eaten, and steps taken. Leading indicators give you real-time feedback that you can actually act on. Here's where most people go wrong with tracking. They either track too many things overwhelming or track the wrong things irrelevant. The sweet spot is usually 3 to 5 key metrics that directly relate to your most important goal. Think of it like a dashboard in your car. You don't need to see every possible piece of data about your engine, but you do need to see speed, fuel level, and any warning. Your productivity dashboard should be similarly focused and actionable. The psychological benefits of progress monitoring are just as important as the practical. When you can see concrete evidence of your improvement, it creates what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you can achieve your goal. This confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading to increased effort and better results. Plus, tracking creates natural celebration opportunities. When you see that you've hit a milestone or maintained a streak, you get an immediate dopamine hit that reinforces the behavior. It's like turning your goals into a video game where you can see your score improving in real time. But here's the advanced technique that separates casual trackers from productivity masters: regular review and adjustment. It's not enough to just collect data. You need to analyze it and act on it. Set aside time, weekly or monthly, to review your metrics and ask tough questions. What patterns do you notice? What's working well? What needs adjustment? Are you tracking the right things? This review process transforms raw data into actionable insights that continuously improve your approach. These mechanisms collectively support the claim that consistent progress monitoring dramatically improves performance outcomes. Although the empirical evidence varies across different contexts and individuals, and additional scientific validation would strengthen this approach to personal productivity management. Now you have the complete blueprint. 8 powerful strategies that can transform from someone who avoids tasks into someone who tackles them head-on. But here's the truth that separates dreamers from achievers. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. These techniques only work if you actually implement them, and the best time to start is right now, with that one task you've been putting off. Pick just one strategy from today's video and commit to trying it for the next 7 days. Don't try to implement everything at once. That's just another form of overwhelm. This channel exists to help you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be, using timeless principles that actually work in the real world. Every week, we dive deep into the psychology of success, productivity, and personal transformation, giving you practical tools you can use immediately. But I need to ask you something important. Are you tired of being someone who knows what to do but doesn't do it? Are you ready to become the person who follows through, who delivers, who gets things done? Because that person is already inside you, waiting to be unleashed. If you're serious about transforming your productivity and finally tackling those tasks you've been avoiding, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Don't let this be just another video you watched and forgot about. Make it the moment you decided to stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own greatest stellar. What's the first task you're going to tackle using these strategies? Let me know in the comments below. Your commitment might just inspire someone else to take action. 2.